I'll just begin. In Syria, over 60,000 people have died in the past 2 years. In 2011, 30,000 Libyans lost their lives. In Burma, thousands of protesters were killed in the Saffron rebellions, and in Afghanistan and Zimbabwe, political activists have been executed in the hundreds. Around the world, men and women give the greatest sacrifice of all. They risk their lives in brutal conflicts and peaceful protests. And they do it in the hope that one day their children and their grandchildren will be able to affect the government that presides over them. They do it so they can vote, so they can be free. They die for democracy. In Canada, we have democracy. And when I turn 18, I can go decide who will be mayor, premier, and prime minister. But statistically, I probably won't. In fact, until I turn 25, the statistical likelihood that I'll vote is only 35%. And from the ages of 25 to 34, that percentage only goes up to 48. In fact, in the last federal election, only 61% of registered voters voted in the federal election, and that number actually goes down when you get to provincial and municipal levels. Voter apathy has become a disease in Canada. When people across the world are willing to die for the right to vote, a very sizable chunk of Canadians can't be bothered to exercise that right. And the interesting thing is, this hasn't always been the standard. Post-war era to the 80s, Canada had a fairly steady and quite solid 75% of registered voters voting in federal elections. And so far, the government's response to this problematic decline in voter participation has been civic education, which has been the response for the past 10 years with no results. That's because voter apathy isn't caused by a lack of knowledge. People know where the polling stations are. They know what the parties are called. Voter apathy is caused by people not caring. That's why it's called voter apathy and not voter ignorance. This societal disease has grown so large because it's become culturally acceptable not to vote in Canada. I've heard people bitterly complain about Stephen Harper right after they stated, well, I didn't vote, but. In a healthy society, a statement with that magnitude of idiocy is met with scorn. However, when I heard this, it was met with agreement. In a healthy society, people realize that if they think a government should operate in a certain way, they vote to influence said government. Moreover, we've come up with these imaginary explanations as to why it's acceptable not to vote. All the time you hear, well, my vote doesn't matter because the rich hold all the power anyways. And that's only true insofar as you don't vote. The way you affect elections through copious amounts of money is by running or paying for the running of ads. You can't actually buy votes, you just buy uneducated voters. That's why simply casting your vote is not enough. You need to actually research the parties and research the leaders and base your vote on what you think parties benefit you and what leaders you think you can trust. And if more people did that, and more people truly took part in the democratic system, attack ads wouldn't be nearly as effective, and as an extension, the rich wouldn't hold nearly as much power in elections. So when you complain that your vote doesn't matter, you exacerbate the very problem you're complaining about. As Canadians, we need to understand that voting is a civic responsibility that allows democracy to function. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy is a right we're born with. We're incredibly fortunate that that's the case. People who are born without that right are willing to die to get it. But we who are fortunate to live with it squander it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've bred a sickness as our society. Voter apathy is a cultural illness that erodes democracy and turns the most equal and effective form of government into a facade where the powerful can retain power. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a negative direction for our society. Thank you.